Hi, everybody. It's Precious Pioneer, and welcome back to the Precious Pioneer Book Club, where I do a live reading of some of my favorite books that I've read. Today, we're continuing reading The Prophet by Kahil Gibran. It looks like this, so feel free to follow along if you have your copy, or you can just read along with me. I think they also have an online version as well. We're starting on page 44 with The Lawyer. If you missed the first part of the book, I did a live reading yesterday, so you can catch up and then come back to this video and listen or read along with me. If I put a live chat in the live video, so if you have any book recommendations or any of your favorite books that you'd love to share with me, feel free to add that to the comments. But without further ado, let's jump back in. Then a lawyer said, "But what of our laws, master?" And he answered, "You delight in laying down laws, yet you delight more in breaking them, like children playing by the ocean who build sand towers with constancy and then destroy them with laughter. But while you build your sand towers, the ocean brings more sand to the shore. And when you destroy them, the ocean laughs with you. Verily, the ocean laughs always with the innocent. But what of those whom life is not an ocean, and man-made laws are not sand towers, but to whom life is a rock, and a law a chisel, with which they would carve it in their own likeness? What of the cripple who hates dancers? What of the ox who loves his yoke, and deems the elk and deer of the forest stray and vagrant things? What of the old serpent who cannot shed his skin, and calls all others naked and shameless? And of him who comes early to the wedding feast, and when overfed and tired goes his way, saying that all feasts are a violation, and all feasters lawbreakers? What shall I say of these, save that they too stand in the sunlight, but with their backs to the sun? They see only their shadows, and their shadows are their laws. And what is the sun to them but a caster of shadows? And what is it to acknowledge the laws but to stoop down and trace their shadows upon the earth? But you who walk facing the sun, what images drawn on the earth can hold you? You who travel with the wind, what weather vane shall direct your course? What man's law shall bind you if you break your yoke, but upon no man's prison door? What laws shall you fear if you dance but stumble against no man's iron chains? And who is he that shall bring you to judgment if you tear off your garment, yet leave it in no man's path? People of Orphalese, you can muffle the drum, and you can loosen the strings of the lyre, but who shall command the skylark not to sing? And an orator said, "Speak to us of freedom." And he answered, "At the city gate and by your fireside, I have seen you prostrate yourself and worship your own freedom, even as slaves humble themselves before a tyrant and praise him though he slays them. In the grove of the temple and in the shadow of the citadel, I have seen the freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff, and my heart bled within me, for you can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you, and when you cease to speak of freedom as a goal and a fulfillment. You shall be free indeed when your days are not without a care, nor your nights without a want and a grief, but rather when these things girdle your life, and yet you rise above them naked and unbound. And how shall you rise beyond your days and nights unless you break the chains which you at the dawn of your understanding have fastened around your noon hour? In truth, that which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though its links glitter in the sun and dazzle your eyes. And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? If it is an unjust law, you would abolish that law was written with your own hand upon your own forehead. You cannot erase it by burning your law books, nor by washing the foreheads of your judges, though you pour the sea upon them. And if it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that his throne erected within you is destroyed. For how can a tyrant rule the free and the proud, but for a tyranny in their own freedom and a shame in their own pride? And if it is a care you would cast off, that care has been chosen by you rather than imposed upon you. And if it is fear you would dispel, the seed of that fear is in your heart and not in the hand of the feared. Verily, all things move within your being in constant half embrace, the desired and the dreaded, the repugnant and the cherished, the pursued and that which you would escape. These things move within you as lights and shadows and pairs that cling. And when the shadow fades and is no more, the light that lingers becomes a shadow to another light. And thus your freedom, when it loses its letters, when it loses its fetters, becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom. And the priestess spoke again and said, "Speak to us of reason and passion." And he answered, saying, "Your soul is oftentimes a battlefield, upon which your reason and your judgment wage war against your passion and your appetite. Would that I could be the peacemaker in your soul, that I might turn the discord and the rivalry of your elements into oneness and melody. But how shall I, unless you yourselves be also the peacemakers, nay, the lovers of all your elements? Your reason and your passion are the rudder and the sails of your seafaring soul. If either your sails or your rudder be broken, you can but toss and drift, or else be held at a standstill in mid-seas. For reason ruling alone is a force confining, and passion unattended is a flame that burns to its own destruction. Therefore let your soul exalt your reason to the height of passion, that it may sing, and let it direct your passion with reason, that your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, and like the phoenix rise above its own ashes. I would have you consider your judgment and your appetite even as you would two loved guests in your house. Surely you would not honor one guest above the other, for he who is more mindful of one loses the love and faith of both. Among the hills, when you sit in the cool shade of the white poplars, sharing the peace and serenity of distant fields and meadows, then let your heart say in silence, God rests in reason. And when the storm comes and the mighty wind shakes the forest, and thunder and lightning proclaim the majesty of the sky, then let your heart say in awe, God moves in passion. And since you are a breath of God's fear, and a leaf in God's forest, you too should rest in reason and move in passion. And a woman spoke, saying, Tell us of pain. And he said, Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Even as the stone of fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is a bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your silk self. Therefore trust the physician, and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility. For his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen, and the cup he brings, though it burn your lips, has been fashioned of the clay which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears. Oh, I forgot, I'm sorry. There's a picture here. And a man said, "Speak to us of self knowledge." And he answered, saying, "Your hearts know in silence the secrets of the days and the nights, but your ears thirst for the sound of your heart's knowledge. You would know in words that which you have always known in thought. You would touch with your fingers the naked body of your dreams. And it is well you should. The hidden well spring of your soul must needs rise and run murmuring to the sea, and the treasure of your infinite depths would be revealed to your eyes. But let there be no scales to weigh your unknown treasure, and seek not the depths of your knowledge with staff or sounding line, for self is a sea boundless and measureless. Say not, I have found the truth, but rather, I have found a truth. Say not, I have found the path of the soul. Rather, say rather, I have met the soul walking upon my path. For the soul walks upon all paths. The soul walks not upon a line, neither does it grow like a reed. The soul unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. I thought that section was really pretty. Then said a teacher, "Speak to us of teaching." And he said, "No man can reveal to you aught but that which already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge. The teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his followers gives not of his wisdom, but rather of his faith and his lovingness. If he is indeed wise, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your mind, of your own mind. The astronomer may speak to you of his understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may sing to you of the rhythm, which is all space, which is in all space, but he cannot give you the ear which arrests the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. And he who is versed in the science of numbers can tell of the regions of weight and measure, but he cannot conduct you thither. For the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. And even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so must each one of you be alone in his knowledge of God and his understanding of the earth. And the youth said, "Speak to us of friendship." And he answered, saying, "Your friend is your needs answered. He is your field, which you sow with love and reap with thanksgiving. And he is your board and your fireside. For you come to him with your hunger, and you seek him for peace. When your friend speaks his mind, you fear not the nay in your own mind, nor do you withhold the a. And when he is silent, your heart ceases not to listen to his heart. For without words and friendship, all thoughts, all desires, all expectations are born and shared with joy that is unacclaimed. When you part from your friend, you grieve not, for for that which you love most in him may be clear in his absence, as the mountain to the climber is clear from the plain. And let there be no purpose in friendship save the deepening of the spirit. For love that seeks aught but the disclosure of its own mystery is not love, but a net cast forth, and only the unprofitable is caught. And let your best be for your friend. If he must know the ebb of your tide, let him know its flood also. For what is your friend that you should seek him with hours to kill? Seek him always with hours to live, for it is his to fill your need, but not your emptiness. And in your sweetness of friendship, let there be laughter and sharing of pleasures, for in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is refreshed. Oops. And then a scholar said, "Speak of talking." And he answered, saying, "You talk when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts. And when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips. And sound is a diversion and a pastime. And in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered. For thought is a bird of space that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings but cannot fly. There are those among you who seek the talkative through fear of being alone. The silence of aloneness reveals to their eyes their naked selves, and they would escape. And there are those who talk without knowledge or forethought, reveal a truth which they themselves do not understand. And there are those who have the truth within them, but they tell it not in words. In the bosom of such as these, the Spirit dwells in rhythmic silence. When you meet your friend on the roadside or in the marketplace, let the Spirit in you move your lips and direct your tongue. Let the voice within your voice speak to the ear of his ear, for his soul will keep the truth of your heart as the taste of the wine is remembered, when the color is forgotten and the vessel is no more. And an astronomer said, Master, what of time? And he answered, You would measure time, the measureless and the immeasurable. You would adjust your conduct and even direct the course of your spirit according to the hours and seasons. Of time you would make a stream upon whose bank you would sit and watch its flowing. Yet the timeless in you is aware of life's timelessness and knows that yesterday is but today's memory and tomorrow is today's dream. And that which sings and contemplates in you is dwelling within the bounds of that first moment which scattered the stars into space. Who among you does not feel that his power to love is boundless? And yet who does not feel that very love, though boundless, encompasses within the center of his being, and moving not from love, thought to love, sorry, and yet who does not feel that very love, though boundless, encompassed within the center of his being, and moving not from love, thought to love, thought nor from love deeds to other love deeds? And is not time, even as love is undivided and spaceless? But if in your thought you must measure time into seasons, let each season encircle all other seasons, and let today embrace the past with remembrance and the future with longing. And one of the elders of the city said, Speak to us of good and evil. And he answered, Of the good in you I can speak, but not the evil. For what is evil but good tortured by its own hunger and thirst? Verily, when good is hungry, it seeks food even in dark caves, and when it thirsts, it drinks even of dead waters. You are good when you are one with yourself, yet when you are not one with yourself, you are not evil. For a divided house is not a den of thieves, it is only a divided house. And a ship without rudder may wander aimlessly among perilous isles, yet sink not to the bottom. You are good when you strive to give of yourself, yet you are not evil when you seek to gain for yourself. For when you strive for gain, you are but a root that clings to the earth and sucks at her breast. Surely the fruit cannot say to the root, Be like me, ripe and full and ever giving of your abundance. For to the fruit, giving is a need, as receiving is a need to the root. You are good when you are fully awake in your speech, yet you are not evil when you sleep while your tongue staggers without purpose, and even stumbling speech may strengthen a weak tongue. You are good when you walk to your goal firmly and with bold steps, yet you are not evil when you go thither limping. Even those who limp go not backward, but you who are strong and swift see that you do not limp before the lame, deeming it kindness. You are good in countless ways, and you are not evil when you are not good. You are only loitering and sluggard. Pity that the stags cannot teach swiftness to the turtles. In your longing for your giant self lies your goodness, and that longing is in all of you. But in some of you, that longing is a torrent rushing with might to the sea, carrying the secrets of the hillsides and the songs of the forest. And in others, it is a flat stream that loses itself in angles and bends and lingers before it reaches the shore. But let not him who longs much say to him who longs little, Wherefore are you slow and halting? For the truly good ask not the naked, where is your garment, nor the houseless, what has befallen your house. Then a priestess said, Speak to us of prayer. And he answered, saying, You pray in your distress and in your need, would that you might pray also in the fullness of your joy and in the days of abundance. For what is prayer but the expansion of yourself into the living ether? And if it is for your comfort to pour your darkness into space, it is also for your delight to pour forth the dawning of your heart. And if you cannot but weep when your soul summoned you to prayer, she should spur you again, yet again, though weeping, until you shall come laughing. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air those who are praying at that very hour, and whom, save in prayer, you may not meet. Therefore, let your visit to the temple invisible for naught but ecstasy and sweet communication. For if you should enter the temple for no other purpose than asking, you shall not receive. And if you should enter into it, humble yourself, you shall not be lifted. Or even if you should enter into it to beg for the good of others, you shall not be heard. It is enough that you enter the temple, invisible. I cannot teach you how to pray in words. God listens not to your words, save when he himself utters them through your lips. And I cannot teach you the prayer of the seas and the forests and the mountains. But you who are born of the mountains and the forests and the seas can find their prayer in your heart. And if you but listen in the stillness of the night, you shall hear them saying in silence, Our God, who art our winged self, it is thy will in us that willeth. It is thy desire in us that desireth. It is thy urge in us that would turn our nights, which are thine, into days, which are thine also. We cannot ask thee for aught, for thou knowest our needs before they are born in us. Thou art our need, and in giving us more of thyself, thou givest us all. Then a hermit who visited the city once a year came forth and said, Speak to us of pleasure. And he answered, saying, Pleasure is a freedom song, but it is not freedom. It is the blossoming of your desires, but it is not their fruit. It is the depth calling into a height, but it is not the deep nor the high. It is the cage taking wing, but it is not space encompassed. In very truth, pleasure is a freedom song, and I fain would have you sing it with fullness of heart. Yet I would not have you lose your hearts in the singing. Some of your youth seek pleasure as if it were all, and they are judged and rebuked. I would not judge nor rebuke them. I would have them seek, for they shall find pleasure, but not her alone. 7 are her sisters, and the least of them is more beautiful than pleasure. Have you not heard of the man who was digging in the earth for roots and found a treasure? And some of your elders remember pleasures with regret, like wrongs committed in drunkenness. But regret is the beclouding of the mind, and not in its chastisement. You should remember their pleasures with gratitude as they would the harvest of a summer. Yet if it comforts them in regret, let them be comforted. And there are among you those who are neither young to seek nor old to remember, and in their fear of seeking and remembering they shun all pleasures, lest they neglect the Spirit or offend against it. But even in their foregoing is their pleasure, and thus they too find a treasure, though they dig for roots with quivering hands. But tell me, who is he that can offend the Spirit? Shall the nightingale offend the stillness of the night, or the firefly the stars? And shall your flame or your smoke burden the wind? Think you the Spirit is a still pool which you can trouble with a staff? Oftentimes, in denying yourself pleasure, you do but store the desire in the recesses of your being. Who knows but that which seems omitted today waits for tomorrow? Even your body knows its heritage and its rightful need and will not be deceived. And your body is the harp of your soul, and it is yours to bring forth sweet music from it or confused sounds. And now you ask in your heart, how shall we distinguish that which is good and pleasure from that which is not good? Go to your fields and your gardens, and you shall learn that it is the pleasure of the bee who gathers honey of the flower. But it is also the pleasure of the flower to yield its honey to the bee. For the bee of for to the bee a flower is a fountain of life, and to the flower a bee is a messenger of love. And to both bee and flower, the giving and receiving of pleasure is a need and an ecstasy. People of Orphalese, be in your pleasures like the flowers and the bees. 74. Oh, page 74. I don't know why I said that. And a poet said, "Speak to us of beauty." And he answered, "Where shall you seek beauty, and how shall you find her unless she herself be your way and your guide? And how shall you speak of her except she is the weaver of your speech?" The aggrieved and the injured say, "Beauty is kind and gentle. Like a young mother half shy of her own glory, she walks among us." And the passionate say, "Nay, beauty is a thing of might and dread. Like the tempest, she shakes the earth beneath us and the sky above us." The tired and the weary say, "Beauty is of soft whispering. She speaks in our spirit. Her voice yields to our silences like a faint light that quivers in fear of the shadow." But the restless say, "We have heard her shouting among the mountains." And with her cries came the sound of hooves, and the beating of wings, and the roaring of lions. At night the watchmen of the city say, "Beauty shall rise with the dawn from the east." And at noontime the toilers and the wayfarers say, "We have seen her leaning over the earth from the windows of the sunset." In winter the snowbound, in winter say the snowbound, "She shall come with the spring leaping upon the hills." And in the summer heat the reapers say, "We have seen her dancing with the autumn leaves, and we saw a drift of snow in her hair." All these things have you said of beauty, yet in truth you spoke not of her, but of the needs, but of needs unsatisfied. And beauty is not a need, but an ecstasy. It is not a mouth thirsting, nor an empty hand stretched forth, but rather a heart inflamed and a soul enchanted. It is not the image you would see, nor the song you would hear, but rather an image you see, though you close your eyes, and a song you hear, though you shut your eyes. It is not the sap within the furrowed bark, nor a wing attached to a claw, but rather a garden forever in bloom, and a flock of angels forever in flight. People of Orphalese, beauty is life when life unveils her holy face. And when you are life, and you are the veil. Beauty is eternity gazing at itself in a mirror, but you are eternity, and you are the mirror. And an old priest said, "Speak to us of religion." And he said, "Have I spoke this day of aught else? Is not religion all deeds and all reflection, and that which is neither deed nor reflection, but a wonder and a surprise ever springing in the soul, even while the hands hew the stone or tend the loom? Who can separate his faith from his actions, or his beliefs from his occupations? Who can spread his hours before him, saying, 'This for God, and this for myself, this for my soul, and this other for my body'? All your hours are wings that beat through space from self to self. He who wears his morality, but at his best garment were better naked. The wind and the sun will tear no holes in his skin. And he who defines his conduct by ethics imprisons his songbird in a cage. The freest song comes not through bars and wires, and he to whom worshipping is a window to open but also to shut has not yet visited the house of his soul, whose windows are from dawn to dawn. Your daily life is your temple and your religion. Whenever you enter into it, take with you your all. Take the plow and the forge and the mallet and the lute, the things you have fashioned in necessity or for delight. For in reverie you cannot rise above your achievements, nor fall lower than your failures. And take with you all men, for in adoration you cannot fly higher than their hopes, nor humble yourself lower than their despair. And if you would know God, be not therefore a solver of riddles. Rather look around you, look about you, and you shall see him playing with your children. And look into space, you shall see him walking in the cloud, outstretching his arms, in the lightning and descending in rain. You shall see him smiling in flowers, then rising and waving his hands in trees. Then Almitra spoke, saying, We would ask now of death. And he said, You would know the secret of death. And how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide into the body of life, for every life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond, and like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. I'll show you the photo first. It is the shepherd not is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing, and when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. And now it's evening. And Almitra the seeress said, Blessed be this day and this place, and your spirit that has spoken. And he answered, Was it I who spoke? Was I not also a listener? Then he descended the steps of the temple, and all the people followed him. And he reached his ship and stood upon the deck. And facing the people again, he raised his voice and said, People of Orphalese, the wind bids me leave you. Less hasty am I than the wind, yet I must go. We wanderers ever seeking the lonelier way, begin no day where we have ended another day, and no sunrise finds us where sunset left us. Even while the earth sleeps, we travel. We are the seeds of the tenacious plant, and it is in our ripeness and our fullness of heart that we are given to the wind and are scattered. Brief are my days among you, and briefer still the words I have spoken. But should my voice fade in your ears, and my love vanish in your memory, then I will come again, and with a richer heart and lips more yielding to the Spirit will I speak. Yea, I shall return to the tide, and though death may hide me, and the greater silence enfold me, yet again will I seek your understanding, and not in vain will I seek. If aught I have said in if aught I have ah, and aught I have said is truth, that truth shall reveal itself a clearer voice, and in words make more kin to your thoughts. I go with the wind, people of Orphalese, but not down into emptiness. And if this stay is not a fulfillment of your needs and my love, then let it be a promise till another day. Man's needs change, but not his love. nor his desire that his love should satisfy his needs. Know therefore that from the greater silence I shall return. The mist that drifts away at dawn, leaving but dew in the fields, shall rise and gather into a cloud, and then fall down in rain. And not unlike the mist have I been, but in the stillness of the night I have walked in your streets, and my spirit has entered your houses, and your heartbeats were in my heart, and your breath was upon my face, and I knew you all. I knew your joy and your pain, and in your sleep your dreams were my dreams. And oftentimes I was among you, a lake among the mountains. I mirrored the summits in you, and the bending slopes, and even the passing flocks of your thoughts and your desires. And to my silence came the laughter of your children and streams, and the longing of your youths and rivers. And when they reached my depth, the streams and the river ceased not yet to sing, but sweeter still than laughter and greater than longing came to me. It was the boundless in you, the vast man in whom you are all but cells and sinews. He in whose chant all your singing is but a soundless throbbing. It is in the vast man that you are vast, and in beholding him that I beheld you and loved you. For what distances can love reach that are not in that vast sphere? What visions, what expectations, and what presumptions can outsoar that flight? Like a giant oak tree covered with apple blossoms is the vast man in you. His might binds you to the earth. His fragrance lifts you into space, and in his durability you are deathless. You have been told that even like a chain, you are as weak as your weakest link, but but this, this is but half the truth. You are also as strong as your strongest link. To measure you by your smallest deed is to reckon the power of ocean by the frailty of its foam. To judge you by your failures is to cast blame upon the seasons for their incons, in, inconstancy, incon, inconstancy. You are like an ocean, and though heavy grounded ships await the tide upon your shores, yet even like an ocean you cannot hasten your tides. And like the seasons you are also, and though in your winter you deny your spring, yet spring reposing within you smiles in her drowsiness, and is not offended. Think not I say these things in order that you may say the one to another, He praised us well, he saw but the good in us. I only speak to you in words of that which you yourselves know in thought. And what is word knowledge but a shadow of wordless knowledge? Your thoughts and my words are waves from a sealed memory that keeps records of our yesterdays, and of the ancient days when the earth knew not us nor herself, and of nights when the earth was upraught with confusion. Wise men have come to you to give you of their wisdom. I came to take of your wisdom. And behold, I found that which is greater than wisdom. It is a flame spirit in you, ever gathering more of itself, while you, heedless of its expansion, bewail the withering of your days. It is life in quest of life in bodies that fear the grave. There are no graves here. These mountains and plains are a cradle and a stepping stone. Whenever you pass by the field where you have laid your ancestors, look well thereupon, and you shall see yourselves and your children dancing hand in hand. Verily, you often make merry without knowing. Others have come to you, to whom, for golden promises made into your faith, you have given but riches and power and glory. Less than a promise have I given, and yet more generous have you been to me. You have given me my deeper thirsting after life. Surely there is no greater gift to a man than that which turns all his aims into parching lips and all life into a fountain. And in this lies my honor and my reward, that whenever I come to the fountain to drink, I find the living water itself thirsty, and it drinks me while I drink it. Some of you have deemed me proud and overshy to receive gifts. Too proud indeed am I to receive wages, but not gifts. And though I have eaten berries among the hills, when you would have had me sit at your board, and slept in the portico of the temple, when you would have gladly have sheltered me, Yet it was yet it was not your loving mindfulness of my days and my nights that made food sweet to my mouth and girdled my sleep with visions. For this I bless you most. You give much and know not that you give at all. Verily the kindness that gazes upon itself in a mirror turns to stone, and a good deed that calls itself by tender names becomes apparent to a curse. And some of you have called me aloof and drunk with my own aloneness, and you have said, he holds counsel with the trees of the forest, but not with men. He sits alone on hilltops and looks down upon our city. True it is that I have climbed the hills and walked in remote places. How could I have seen you, save from a great height or a great distance? How can one be indeed near unless he be far? And others among you called unto me, not in words, and they said, Stranger, stranger, lover of unreachable heights, why dwell you amongst the summits where eagles build nests? Why seek you the unattainable? What storms would you trap in your net? And what vaporous birds do you haunt in the sky? Come and be one of us. Descend and appease your hunger with our bread and quench your thirst with our wine. In the solitude of their souls they say these things. But where their solitude deeper they would have known I sought but the secret of your joy and your pain, and I hunted only your larger selves that walk the sky. But the hunter who is also the hunted, for many of my arrows left my bow only to seek my own breast, and the flyer was also the creeper, for when my wings were spread in the sun, their shadow upon the earth was a turtle. And I, the believer, was also the doubter. For often when I put my finger in my own wound, that I might have the greater belief in you and the greater knowledge of you. And it is with this belief and this knowledge that I say, you are not enclosed within your bodies, nor confined to houses or fields, that which you dwell above the mountain and roves with the wind. It is not a thing that crawls into the sun for warmth or digs holes into darkness for safety, but a thing free, a spirit that envelops the earth and moves in the ether. If these be vague words, and seek not to clear them, vague and nebulous is the beginning of all things, but not their end. And I fain would have you remember me as a beginning. Life and all that lives is conceived in the midst, and not in the crystal. And who knows but a crystal is mist and decay? This would I this would I have you remember in remembering me. That which seems most feeble and bewildered in you is the strongest and most determined. It is not your breath that erected it is not your breath that has erected and hardened the structure of your bones, and it is not a dream which none of you remember having dreamt, the build that builded your city and fashioned all there is in it. Could you but see the tides of that breath, you would cease to see all else, and if you could hear the whispering of the dream, you would hear no other sound. But you do not see, nor do you hear, and it is well. The veil that clouds your eyes shall be lifted by the hands that wove it, and the clay that fills your ears shall be pierced by those fingers that kneaded it, and you shall see, and you shall hear. Yet you shall not deplore having known blindness, nor regret having been deaf, for in that day you shall know the hidden purposes in all things, and you shall bless darkness as you would bless light. After saying these things, he looked about him, and he saw the pilot of his ship standing by the helm, and gazing now at the full sails, and now at the distance. And he said, Patient over patient is the captain of my ship, and the wind blows, and restless are the sails, and even the rudder begs direction, yet quietly my captain awaits my silence. And these my mariners, who have heard the choir of the greater sea, they too heard me patiently. Now they shall wait no longer. I am ready. The stream has reached the sea, and once more the great mother holds her son against her breast. Fare you well, people of Orphalese. This day has ended. It is closing upon us even as the water lily upon its own tomorrow. And what was given us here we shall keep, and if it suffices not, then again must we come together and together stretch our hands unto the giver. Forget not that I shall come back to you. A little while, and my longing shall gather dust and foam for another body. A little while, a moment of rest upon the wind, and another woman shall bear me. Farewell to you, and the youth I have spent with you. It was but yesterday we met in a dream. You have sung to me in my aloneness, and I of your longings have built a tower in the sky. But now our sleep has fled, and our dream is over, and it's no longer dawn. The noontide is upon us, and our half waking has turned to a fuller day, and we must part. If in the twilight of the memory we should meet once more, we shall speak again together, and you shall sing to me a deeper song. And if our hands should meet in another dream, we shall build another tower in the sky. So saying, he made a signal to the seaman, and straightway they weighed anchor and cast the ship loose from its moorings, and they moved eastward. And a cry came from the people, as from a single heart, and it rose into the dusk, and was carried out over the sea like a great trumpeting. Only Elmitra was silent, gazing after the ship until it had vanished into the midst. And when all the people were dispersed, she stood alone upon the sea wall, remembering in her heart his saying, a little while, a moment of rest upon the wind, and another woman shall bear me. And that's it. That's the end of the book. Oh, I was just looking at the back cover. I guess Kahil Gibran, wrote other like poems and stuff here. I'll list it here so you can see. Honestly, this is my second time reading it in the past like 3 days. I don't know. I just find this book really beautiful. It kind of reminds me of what is it? The one with the tiger, The Life of Pi. It kind of reminds me of that book. I mean, The Life of Pi isn't written as a poetry novel, but the storytelling with it, it's like, how do you say, like the writer is writing a story about somebody else, like the layers in it gets kind of complicated. But on the outside, as the reader, we're involved in the book, and we too take a lesson from what the writer is experiencing while he's writing whatever he's writing, if that makes any sense. And so about this book, like Kahil Gibran wrote this book about somebody else who experiences something profound through his poetry and experiencing things. But us, the reader, can also learn a lot of the lessons that he shares with the people. And I don't know, I just find this book like really peaceful to read. I feel like sometimes we have a lot of life questions, and I feel like this book is one of those. It's just beautiful, offers a lot of clarity on different things. You can kind of take a lot of the different notes that he gives the people. Like I remember like the section of good and evil. It's so easy to be like, oh yeah, like we're the good and like we have to fight the evil every single day, but he just says like they go hand in hand. Like you cannot blame like we're all, there's no one that is evil inherently. We all carry like both, and I know that some cultures believe that already, like the yin and the yang, and like um all these different like elements that we truly kind of believe in general. But it's just kind of beautiful to see like those aspects. On a small tangent, it's kind of the reason why I really love villains like from superhero movies. Like I know that a lot of people just love the superheroes or whatever, but like they're not inherently like good either at all. But a lot of the villains like went through something in their life that broke their spirit or wounded their joy to an element where they were pushed to crazy or whatever. And so now they're evil, but really they had a good. I feel like you can be molded into one direction. Um, then yeah, and that's what he said. Like he was saying, like the good may like run fast or whatever and just like be on the straight and narrow and they know their path and they're fulfilling their path and bum bum bum. And then the evil sometime or the people who are not considered good or whatever are just a little bit slower and sometimes they get on the wrong path and then they're straying or whatever. And like but everybody can like with the ship example, everybody can be like anchored back to like their original path or whatever. It's like you saying people stray from their path and all of these parallels are just really beautiful. Like even what he says about work and how really like it's kind of just an expression of yourself. Like it's easy to be caught up in saying like, oh, work is for like the lame or whatever. Like if you're wealthy, you shouldn't work and blah 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 blah. Which like I don't know if you believe that that's okay too, you know. But he was also saying like there because we work like most of our lives, like just in general. Um, Putting your passion into your work is love. It's like a part of you, a piece of you that you dedicate to your life every day, which I found is really beautiful because, like, as a chef, like that's something I can personally relate to. Like, I definitely put your heart and soul into your cooking or whatever, and I just thought that was really beautiful. What else? Let's look through the contents. I will definitely make a video kind of summarizing this book, my favorite parts of the beginning and the end or whatever. But like, oh, another one, the eating and drinking one, I thought that was really beautiful. It kind of reminded me of Avatar a little bit, or even Native Americans, how they really value the spirit of the animal and the things that they gather and they don't take food for granted. I definitely experience that like as a chef. Like I try not to eat as many animal products and things like that because I know really what it takes, like of like eating a chicken or whatever, like skinning it from top to bottom using the bone, the heart, the liver, the eyes, what the feet, the whatever, you know, like it really is a full bodied animal. And like even like he was saying like the produce, like you just have to acknowledge like that something died and sacrificed itself. Something living died, sacrificed itself so that we can also live and get its nutrients. And I think that's kind of a beautiful sentiment of like why food is life. It provides life, but eventually like we will be back in the earth and like we will be a part of that circle of life or whatever. And I just thought that was really beautiful. There's an I love the thing that he said about children, how he said like basically like we're like children are the arrows of our bows. But our goal and our dream, like as we aspire as parents, I'm not a parent, but like is to shoot them further than we could ever go, not to like mold them into an exact replica of like who we are. Like we can learn from them and be inspired by them, but it's not our duty to like shape who they are because they have their own thoughts and ideas and ambitions or whatever. I just think that in its own way is really beautiful as well. So there's a lot of different books that I just find really incredible and it like really sits with you. Oh, the balance between the joy and sorrow, how they're kind of one. I think that's really interesting because like he put that in a really good perspective. I know a lot of people say you don't really know happiness until you experience sadness. Like I feel like being happy you wouldn't like seek that out unless you really knew what sadness was. If we were happy all the time, we would take it for granted. It's kind of like the idea of like morality. Like if all of us lived forever, I don't think we'd value life as much as we do now. So he was saying like only until you've experienced like the deepest of sorrow will you experience like the deepest of joy. You'll value it way more, which I thought was just an interesting concept. So they kind of go together because what is sorrow but like the loss of something that you joy, like that brought you joy or value. I'm like, dang, they kind of just go together. And he's like, only when not necessarily that you don't feel either, but like where you be truly balanced. Because like life is like a scale. You're either like really joyful or really sorrowful, but only when you're kind of like living the day to day are you balanced. And like I think we take that for granted. Like we're all trying to seek out happiness and joy all the time, but really, like it's like the normal days are our best days of our life, like when we put it in perspective, So, thanks for joining the book club today. There will be a new book tomorrow. I'm excited to share it with you guys. If you really like this book, or if you have some insight or anything, just leave it in the comments below. I always respond. And that's it. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.